What's up? I'm Big Bob. What's up, Big Bob? We have a special podcast today with a special guest, but we'll get to that in a second. First, our traditional shout out to Brenda Ringwood, our executive producer and the founder of Becoming the Better You Foundation, which I am very committed to. And before it's all over, maybe I can get you committed also.
We'll see.
All right. Chukky Okobi.
Okobi.
Chukky Okobi. Now, I've never heard of Chukky Okobi. However, he was in the NFL for
8 years.
8 years.
8 years.
You know, if it was 11, how would you show 11? You only got 10 fingers.
We can't. I don't know.
You take off a shoe.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this would be, safe for work if I had to show 11. So
this is a PG family show.
Okay. Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
So we're going to spend some time getting to know each other. This is mostly about you, your history, your story, with my interjection of humor and inappropriate kind of comments.
Perfect.
Perfect. Great. Where did you grow up?
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
I have history in Pittsburgh. I just shared that with you.
Yes.
I lived in Pittsburgh in 74 and 75, a little bit 76. He wasn't born until 78, so I wasn't there. What high school did you go to?
I actually went to a boarding school, a prep school in New York.
Which one?
High school, Trinity Pauling.
Recruited to play ball?
No, actually, it was a situation where, my mom, being a single mom, she wasn't able to be there, with teenage sons. So
right, she recognized that you need discipline, you need consistency, you need a heavy hand, otherwise you'd be a juvenile delinquent. And she made the choice to sacrifice quality time with you one-on-one to make sure you had the best opportunity to be successful.
There you go. I couldn't have said
what
it
a great
myself.
mother. Yeah. Well, you can watch this tape later and say it the way I said it.
Gotcha.
All right. Graduate high school.
Mm-hmm.
You play sports?
I played football. In high school, I played football, baseball, did track and field 1 year.
All right.
Got a scholarship to Purdue University.
Hold on, let's slow down. What event in track?
Obviously, it wasn't the 100-yard dash.
Well, I was a 100-yard dash in college.
Yeah, as a football player, as an offensive lineman, so I don't think I would have been very valuable in those spring
You were
races.
an offensive lineman?
Yes, I was.
You look like you're, what, 235 now?
About 250, 255 now. But, that's, probably 60, 70 pounds lighter than my playing weight.
You lost 70 pounds? Healthy?
Yeah.
How did you do it?
Well, honestly, it all started with injury because, the last team I played for was Houston.
I don't see any scars on your knees.
Well, injury. Actually, I haven't had any surgeries lower body.
All right.
All my injuries were upper body, and my career finished on an injury that I sustained with the last team I was with, which was Houston Texans.
Right.
And I couldn't lift upper body the way I had been since I was 12 years old at that point.
Okay.
And what I was permitted to do was run. So, just kind of that antsiness, I had to work out. So I started running all the time. And
were you a running back stuck in a big man's body?
Well, in my mind, it's funny because when I first started playing football, I didn't know the rules. I didn't know anything. I never played until high school. But going to Trinity Pauling, it's a small all-boys boarding school, and in the state of New York, there's a physical education requirement. Now, there was no physical education class in our school, so everybody had to play a sport every season, competitively or recreationally. And me being from Pittsburgh and being a football fan, that was my I was drawn to that sport as far as the fall goes. And being of Nigerian descent, both my parents originally from Nigeria, I was enamored with.
Time out. They came here legally.
Oh yeah, 100%,
Okay.
100%. And
I want to get that out of the way.
yeah, and I was enamored with a particular football player of Nigerian descent, and I know you. I can guess that you can guess who it was.
I know him well. Okoye.
Yeah, that was who I wanted to be.
Right.
And so when I first started playing football, I wore 35, and my first position was fullback, even though I didn't even know the rules of football at that point.
Right.
But
Just don't let anybody put you on the ground.
that was it. I been watching him on television for so long and wanting to emulate that as a football player, not even really understanding the game the way I do now. And I found that you just had a natural talent for football. And, at that point I was 13 years old. So continued to grow and develop. And each year it's like I just kept getting closer and closer to that line.
If you'd gone to Ohio State and you were a fullback, they would have made you offensive guard anyways.
Probably.
I mean, that was their MO.
Yeah.
Back in my day, is they take all their fullbacks, the wannabe fullbacks, beef them up, put them on the offensive line.
Hey, you need somebody that can move, that can
Right.
around that corner.
Right.
I totally
Take great athletes, put them on the offensive line.
totally get that. Yeah. And so, wanting to play football, wanting to be like Christian Okoye, started out my first year in high school as a running back, but then as you get a little bit bigger, it's like, why don't we just slide you over to tight end?
You're the biggest guy in the team, practically.
I mean, at 13, I wasn't the biggest, but I was bigger than any of the running backs. And, as I got older, bigger, went from the backfield to tight end to why don't you try snapping the ball? And that became my path as a football player.
So you like that stuff, having the guys pat your butt?
Actually, no. When I was
Come on,
when I was
you got to smile when I say that.
When I was at Purdue, it's part of the job. It's totally professional. And so when I first got to Purdue, I was recruited as a center. When we changed coaches in '97, I moved to guard, and it was great because now I didn't have anybody touching me.
So I played quarterback in high school.
Okay.
All right. Matter of fact, I led the nation in pass completion percentage when I was a senior in high school.
Nice.
I was 7 for 8.
Yeah, that's a pretty good percentage.
We ran the ball a lot.
I got you.
Right. But and besides, I couldn't throw the ball worth a damn. But I was fast, and we had a fast backfield. So what year in college did you move to guard?
It was 1997. So I was redshirted in 1996.
So basically your freshman year.
Yes.
So you never played center in college. You started playing guard.
I played center my senior year. I moved from guard to center.
Back to center.
Yeah.
All right. How was Purdue back then?
Well, it's an interesting story. When I first, coming out of high school was the only scholarship offer I received. So I didn't have a lot of choices, but in my mind, I was just felt grateful because I could only play for one team at a time, and that's so all I wanted was just an opportunity. And so at that point, 1996, Purdue was Big Ten bottom dweller for a while, and hadn't had a successful season at that point in 11 or 12 years, and it didn't matter to me because I was going to be on TV playing.
Tough. It was tough division. I did grad work at Northwestern. Mm-hmm. When we were at Northwestern, played the number 1 team in the country twice. Mm-hmm. Played 4 teams that ended up in the top 7 in the country. Tough schedule. Mm-hmm. Tough league. Purdue, Big Ten, but they were playing the big boys every single week.
Every single week. I mean, that was the opportunity I was looking for. And it's interesting because the year I redshirted, 1996, our record was 3-8, and I didn't play that season. That's probably why we were 3-8 because I didn't play.
Wait. How did we do after when you started playing?
9-3.
See,
went to 4 bowl games. 4 years.
Which one did you go to?
Went to the Alamo Bowl in 97 and 98. Played in the Outback Bowl in 99, and we were Big Ten champions in 2000. Played in the Rose Bowl.
All right. What did you study?
Communication. So communication is.
How's that working out for you?
Hey, I think that's the real wealth and the real value that I took from my experience at Purdue was being able to learn how to articulate ideas and to be able to communicate in a way that people cannot misunderstand. And as a speaker, leadership trainer, and executive mindset coach now, I utilize those skills that I got from Purdue way more than any of the football stuff.
You still have friends left over from Purdue?
Yeah.
Were you a fraternity?
No, I mean, the football team's the biggest frat on campus. You know this.
It's a frat for life.
Yeah,
absolutely. It really is. And here's the other thing. The guys here in Kansas City that played in the NFL that you never met are your brothers too.
Yeah.
It's a very, very tight fraternity.
There's a lot of former players here in Kansas City, and it was one thing was,
even though you're Steeler, they still take you in.
Most people never think about it like this with pro sports. I'm from Pittsburgh. I was born in Pittsburgh. It's where I'm originally from. It's where I played 6 out of 8 years in the NFL, and so obviously there's an emotional and direct connection to the Steelers. But when you think about pro sports or even college sports now, which is technically pro at this day and age, is the players, they come and go, the coaches come and go, even the front office comes and goes. The aspect of the teams that never leaves is the community, is the fans. So a lot of people don't think about cheer. They think about cheering for the Chiefs like they're cheering for them. It's like, realize you're actually cheering for yourself, and that the teams represent the community. I've lived here in Kansas City since 2018. So I consider Kansas City to be home. And I don't look at it as, I like the Steelers and not the Chiefs.
It's a good time to be a Chiefs fan.
Well, it's a good time to be a Chiefs fan. And I look at it as a representation of my community where I live. So to me, I'm always rooting for the Chiefs to do well.
We're going to get to the Chiefs and NFL and all that kind of stuff, right? Because I want your read on this year's draft and a couple of other things. I'm a Chiefs fan, but your perspective on what went wrong, what went right, how we fix things in the draft, I'm very interested in hearing that.
I honestly, just to be honest,
you know a little bit more about it than I do.
I actually don't know anything about this year's draft. I haven't really followed football that closely in a lot of years. Obviously some of the main stories about, people sliding in the draft and whatnot, some of those things. What I will say about the Chiefs is, the last game they played didn't really leave a good taste in the mouths of Chiefs fans. But what I will say is,
ask me why.
Well,
why? I think Mahomes played one of the worst games he ever had, and I think Andy Reid called one of the worst games he ever had. You combine the two, and going up a team that was spectacular. I mean, they didn't blitz once, and they dominated our offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
They were playing tight coverage on the outside, so there's no short passes available, and the long passes weren't there either because the defensive front was getting too much pressure on Mahomes. We didn't have the right game plan. Mahomes didn't play his best game. Right? We're going to lose to a great team.
At the end of the day, I felt going in that Philadelphia was the better team anyway.
Yeah, me too. But that doesn't mean best team doesn't always win.
Doesn't always win in that situation. When you look at the strength of Philadelphia versus the weakest position for the Chiefs during the season, which was offensive line, it's not always
it's offensive line or left tackle.
It's the offensive line.
Right. We had 3 all pros, and you're saying the offensive line was weak?
If one person's weak, the whole line's weak. Think about this. When I played.
Whoa. You're only as good as your weakest link in the chain.
It.
So if one guy out of 5 is not carrying his full share, the whole offensive line is ineffective.
It doesn't work. Like I played in Pittsburgh and in Arizona. My offensive line coach was Russ Grimm, who played Russ Grimm for the Washington Redskins, in the Hall of Fame.
Where did he go to college?
University of Pittsburgh.
No shit.
Yeah, another Pittsburgh guy. Pittsburgh guy. And the thing is, Russ used to say, if we play 75 plays in a game, and you're playing right tackle, and you have 70 good plays and 5 not so good plays, you feel like you had a pretty good game. But here's the issue. If we play 75 plays and the right tackle had 5 bad plays and the right guard had 5 bad plays and the center 5 and the left guard 5 and the left tackle,
that's a 30-year game.
And they weren't.
That's one out of every 3 plays
Yeah.
you're giving up. You suck.
Exactly. So if all of those each player only played 70 great plays, that's pretty good percentage. But if those 5 happen on different plays for each person, like you said, they have 25 plays that didn't work. And offensive football is a lot like there's a synergy, in defense. The defense, you can call the wrong defense, and one guy gets to the quarterback, and it's fine. On offense, if one player doesn't do their job, the play doesn't work.
Right.
If somebody doesn't run their route correctly, the play's not going to work. If somebody doesn't, if the running back doesn't chip that defensive end on his way out, the play may not work. And so offensive football it's a chorus line. It's dance. Like it's a dance where everyone's got to move in sync, and it all it takes is one guy. So the thing about football is a lot of times we give too much credit to certain people and too much blame to others. And sometimes it's the same position. So when things don't go well, a lot of times we're looking at the quarterback. But the thing is, like, the quarterback's only as good as the players he's playing with.
That's why I don't go to games anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go to games because I'm sitting next to ignorant people who don't understand football. Quarterback throws the ball and nobody's there. They go, my God, this quarterback sucks.
You don't know what the play is. You don't
know. Because it's a read on the receiver and the defensive cornerback, and it could be an eye, right eye, left eye, left eye. He goes one way instead of the other way, and the quarterback is 30 yards away. He can't see it the same way the receiver sees it. So we're ignorant up in the stands as to whose fault it might be. And these fans are going ballistic, right? And besides the walking and the loud noise, I sit in my chair at home. I have a text buddy. I text during games, Will Shields, and we text each other during games. And that's enough recreation for me. I can watch a whole game and never say a word. Not one shoot or not one yippee-yi-yay. Just football. Right? That's the way I prefer it.
Yeah, I mean, football is one of those games that, unless you're involved at the level that you've been involved in.
No. I don't know squat about football.
Well, you've coached.
You know, I've been around it, but doesn't mean I know it. I mean, I was around it 40 years, 50 years ago.
Still football. Football.
It's a different game today.
Yeah, I mean,
you're still block and tackle.
Yeah,
but a different game today.
Well, there's a lot more rules nowadays. You can get away with a lot more. Even back when I played, you can get away with a lot more than you can now.
Right. And
at the end of the day, it's really looking at the Chiefs as a unit. I think that when they win, there's 3 people that seem to get a lot of credit, and when they lose, there's 3 people that seem to take too much blame. And at the end of the day,
are they always the same 3 people?
Since I've lived here in Kansas City, it seems to be the same 3 people that seem to get all the credit, and they're incredible. You got an incredible head coach, you got incredible players on offense, and incredible players on defense. Got to send a shout out to Karloftis, who wears my number and went to my alma mater. So always got to mention, talk about the Chiefs, talk about Karloftis.
But here's the thing: I think Andy Reid's success comes from not trying to put a round peg into a square hole. Right? When he takes you on, he figures out that you're a round peg. And even if he doesn't have the round hole, he creates a round hole for you instead of trying to jam you into a square peg.
Well, that's the coach has got to be resourceful.
Some don't. If Mahomes had gone to 56 other teams instead of Andy Reid's team, some coach might have tried to squeeze him into the square peg.
Maybe. We'll never know, though, because he's the Chief. And it probably will never be on another team other than the Chiefs.
No, he won't be. Even when he gets too old, they'll retire him. Did you have more years left in you when you quit playing?
No,
You're
not at all. No, I mean, that's the thing about sports is
some athletes say I got another year or 2 left.
And
LeBron James probably thinks he still has another 2 years left.
well, LeBron James is an icon, and so even if he, went 0 for 5 from the field, the impact of having him in that locker room, the impact he's going to have.
Tom Brady thinks he can come back next year and play for the Raiders.
Well, the thing is, again, another icon in that there's more value than just what they can do physically on the field.
Right.
And that's
they know it's going to happen.
It's mentally, it's actually, borderline spiritual.
All right.
And what these guys represent. And, I played with a lot of Hall of Famers, people that are in the Hall of Fame, people that are definitely going to be in the Hall of Fame. When I was at Purdue, we changed coaches after I redshirted. That first 4 years of Joe Tiller, who's the coach hired in '97,
right.
There was only one player on that roster who started all 4 years, and that was me. Now, there was another player you might have heard of that was also there those 4 years, and Drew Brees. And he started 3 years. Now, I started 4, and Brees started 3. I'm not saying I'm better than Drew Brees, but the history book says.
Wait, did he say? It sounded like you were saying you were better.
If I said it, I'm saying I started 4. Those first 4
right.
years, we were both freshmen together.
Right.
I started. He was on the sideline that first year.
Who was the quarterback ahead of him?
Billy Dicken, who was a senior. He was
Billy
a senior.
who?
Billy Dicken. He was first team All Big Ten that year.
Was he?
Yeah, he was. He played really well. I mean, there's different types of quarterbacks,
right. And
Brees fit into the offensive scheme that Joe Tiller was running better than Billy did. Billy was somebody who was left over from the previous coaching staff, right. But he had experience playing in the Big Ten. So Brees was just out of high school, and so
that's a question I want. Why? When a team hires a new coordinator,
mm-hmm.
you got 30 guys on offense who understand the whole playbook that they played with last year.
Mm-hmm.
New offensive coordinator comes in. He says, throw that crap out. We're going to rewrite the whole new playbook. Why? Why can't he learn the new language instead of asking 30 other guys to learn the new language? You know what I'm saying? Because a new playbook is like a new language.
Well, it's more than just the understanding the X's and O's, and there's a culture that the coordinator is running a script, if you will, according to the idea that the head coach has, and to change, you have to indoctrinate this group into this new culture that you're looking to create, knowing that eventually, okay, I can learn these 30 new plays, but I got to think beyond just this first season. I got to think about the bigger picture of what we're looking to create here. And it's important to get them to follow my lead as the coordinator.
All right. I guess that's fine. All right. Who was the most difficult guy you had to block?
Casey Hampton.
You didn't even think about that.
No, because I played against Casey Hampton. We were teammates in Pittsburgh, and we were rookies together. We were in the same draft class.
Right.
He played nose guard. I played center. So every single day, I was wrestling with this guy who's
big man.
He was big, with looking maybe 6 feet tall, 350 pounds. It was like blocking a fire hydrant every single day.
Right.
And the funny thing is, there was a level of familiarity because I played against him every single day, and it was still 6-7 years I played against this guy every day, and it was still challenging. And it got to the point where I would watch him playing against other teams and laugh because to me they can't block him. And I could block him, but again, I had a lot of opportunities to get used to it. And
were you buddies?
Oh yeah. Casey was a great guy.
So he wasn't beating you up just for recreation?
No. But to me, it was all about, doing my best to help the defense prepare. And we had a top defense, Super Bowl winning defense, and Casey was right there in the middle.
All right.
And so, I'm just proud that I was able to help him prepare to, 7-time Pro Bowler.
All right. What year did you leave the NFL?
2008 was my last year.
So it's been 14 years.
Yeah. 17 years.
8, you said?
2008 to 2025, 17.
17 years. See, college educated. 17 years. What have you been doing in the last 17 years?
I am an executive mindset coach and work
Executive
mindset.
mindset.
Yes,
Is that like goal setting?
it's part of it.
So one of my philosophies, and I'll share this with you. Goals have nothing to do with numbers. Goals are the activities that change the numbers. So when you set a goal, I want 10% more. Well, that's great. Instead of saying you want 10% more, tell me the activities that you're going to do that justify getting 10% more. So goal setting is more about activities than numbers.
I can appreciate that. I don't know if that's a truth, but I could definitely appreciate it and see where you're coming from. What it comes down to, the way I, working with transitioning athletes, people who are leaving pro sports, people who are leaving sports, period, and really engaging the world in a different way. It's understanding energy. And a lot of times we say energy, what are you talking about? It's like, well, energy, everything, science has proven everything's made of energy.
Energy can neither be created nor destroyed.
Can't be created or destroyed. It can only be transmuted.
Right.
So you're picking up what I'm putting down. So here's the thing is how energy is transmuted through different phases. What are those phases? The way I have learned it and the way I teach it is you have creation energy, transformation, and completion. But those are long words.
Hold on a second. I understand the first one.
I'll explain.
The second one, I think I understand. But the last one, you got me lost.
Completion energy. So you have creation, transformation, completion. But I want to simplify it.
Yes.
What I do is I always put things into what I call basic instructions. So transformation, creation, transformation, completion. Let's call it being, doing, and having energy. Being energy, doing energy, having energy. So how's this being energy is, who am I being? So going back to the example, you said I want a 10% raise. Okay. Well, in the context of my job, who am I being? And being has nothing to do with a title that was given to you from outside. It's who am I being inside? And so the first thing you got to consider is what do I value and what do I believe? Those are going to be the most determining factors as to defining your being energy. So I'll give you the story just to illustrate this being energy.
Please.
So I was mentoring a couple of guys that had just finished playing their senior years at Purdue and were going into the NFL wanting to get drafted. And I told them, I said, if you want it, there's 10,000 college football seniors every year. They only draft about 230 guys every year, and they're not even all seniors. So if you even want to be considered by these NFL teams, you have to be an NFL player. And one of the players said to me, yeah, I know, that's what we want. We want to get drafted so we can be NFL players. I say, you're not hearing what I'm saying.
Right.
Your beliefs and your values have to align.
You have to see it.
It's deeper. You have to be that. It's what I call, you have to eat, sleep, and it's a PG show, but eat, sleep, and shit. You have to eat, sleep, and shit. It has to be your everything.
Right.
You have to be that. You have to understand what being an NFL player is like. What do I have to believe? What do I value? So that's the first thing. Then based on your being energy, what am I going to do to express it? And so that everything I do has to come from what I believe. It has to come from that. So you have to determine who am I being? And once I know who I am, that being energy, now what am I going to do? And it's the synergy of those two energies. You're being, doing. It creates inertia. You know what's inertia, right? It creates inertia, which eventually is going to grow and develop into you having an NFL career. You have to be it here, and you have to express that being in everything you do if you want a chance to
Why did
have
you get a hold of Sanders before the interviews and talk him out of doing too much of that?
I mean, to me,
because if he came into those interviews after being coached by you, he would have been a top pick.
Maybe not. I mean, I can't call I don't know what happened in those war rooms, in those scouting departments, and
you have just as good a guess as anybody else does.
mm-hmm.
I mean,
at the end of the day,
I got two reasons he didn't go, but I want to hear yours.
To me, there's a lot of discrepancy between the predictions and expectations that we have on what we believe is going to happen and what actually happened. And the thing is, there's things to consider culturally and in terms of bringing certain people into your locker room. And so maybe that's where some of the talking comes in.
I'm going to assume for this conversation, he was a top 10 talent.
That was the word. That's what everyone was saying.
Let's assume he's a top 10 talent.
All right.
The only two reasons I come up with that he didn't get drafted in the top 2 was they didn't think he would play well with others in the locker room.
There you go, the cultural.
And they didn't want the dad looking over the shoulder saying, "How come you didn't call this play?"
Yeah, I mean that.
Right.
I don't know how much, especially with Deion Sanders he's got his own responsibilities as a coach. I don't know how involved he could get in the careers of his kids at the professional level. But what I will say is, Coach Tiller used to say this at Purdue. Anytime, there were situations where people were dismissed.
Right.
And he said, the players who are not tapped in, tuned in, turned on, connected to a vision that we have for our team as a whole, you got to get them out of the locker room because they become what he called a cancer.
Wait a second. Why do you think a superstar on a football team or a baseball team or a basketball team says, "I want to be traded," and the teams end up trading him instead of saying, "Eat shit and die, you're under contract, go out and earn your dollars"? They never say that because they don't want him to become the cancer in the locker room.
I mean,
so that's why they say, "Look, we'd rather you stay here, but if we can get a fair trade for you, we'll let you go."
You got to look at Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin, he got a lot of one-liners, but I always love when he says, "We want volunteers, not hostages."
Right. I love that.
Not hostages.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I
love that line.
When you have somebody in the locker room who's not aligned with what we're doing, they become a cancer. And Coach Tiller used to say, "There's no cure for cancer. The only way we can get rid of it is to cut it out." And so that's why you have to keep these people out. Now, if somebody's coming in there giving off the impression that they somehow believe that they're bigger than the organization, bigger than the team, that looks like a precursor to locker room cancer. And it's like, I would rather not take the chance.
Have you ever played with a cancer?
Oh, I've played with plenty, not at the professional level so much. The culture that Bill Cowher kept in the Rooneys, obviously it's similar to the Hunt family here. It's a family business, and we didn't really have a lot of that when I was in Pittsburgh. Never really had. I mean, I saw some of that in the years after I left Pittsburgh.
Bell,
you have guys like Bell and Brown.
Was Big Ben?
Ben was there. I played with Ben 3 years in Pittsburgh.
He wasn't a cancer.
Not at all.
He was a humble, golly gee shucks, I'm glad to be here type of guy.
He's a good quarterback. He's a good leader, leading by example mainly. And it's having guys like that who understand the assignment, who are bought into the culture of what we're looking to do, and give as much of themselves as they can to help us as a whole.
It's not just talent; it's dedication. It's not just get on the field and practice, play the games, get on the field, practice, go to the weight room, and go to the training room. That's about a third of the job. Yeah. The other third of the job is in the classrooms and at home, studying and preparing.
It's so much more than that.
And staying out of harm's way.
It's about energy. It's about who do you believe you're being.
Do me this again on the energy.
The energy is there's, like you said, energy cannot be created nor destroyed, only transmuted through different phases.
And now put this into football, how a professional football takes the energy, creates it, manifests it, and completes it.
So you want to first get a picture, visualization of who you believe you are. Who am I being? So as a football player, who am I being? That goes into not just what I want my career to be at the end. We'll get to that. But who am I being? If I step in the locker room, what's the energy I'm bringing to what's going on?
This information it can be translated to every single person in every walk of life, no matter who you are, what you do. If you dedicate yourself and focus on being the best you can be, becoming the best you, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we do, become the best you can be.
Yeah.
You have to focus. You have to control the energy. You have to have the core values. You have to have the vision, the commitment, and you can reach excellence. It's about putting your ladder up against the right wall and focusing on putting your foot down on every link on the ladder as you crawl up to the top to be successful. Nothing comes easy without the dedication that he's sharing with us about energy.
Yeah.
Nobody, unless you win a lottery ticket by luck, right? Nothing comes easy without the dedication of focus of energy. Thank you.
At the end of the day, everything in the universe created energy. That means we human beings are made up of energy too.
Absolutely.
And so how the advantage humans have over the rest of life on this planet,
we have thumbs,
is the ability. Well, that's at a physical level, yeah. The ability to choose who I want to be. You can choose to be, if you decide I'm going to be an NFL player, you may not know. I decided that when I was 7 years old that I was going to play pro sports. And the thing is, I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't
play soccer probably.
No, but I'm a huge soccer fan.
So one of my things I like to talk about is it's more important to choose who you want to be than what you want to be. Right? You're 13 years old. I don't want you to talk about what you want to be when you grow up. I want you to talk about who you want to be when you grow up. What kind of person, what kind of core values? Do you choose to be a high school, college graduate? Do you choose to be honor your mother and father? Do you choose to be, who do you want to be? Do you want to be someone who never lies, cheats, or steals? Do you want to be someone who has great core values? Who do you choose to be when you grow up? And that's the message I try to tell the young kids.
Yeah.
That is way more important than what you want to be.
It's
And by the way, when you start talking to your 21-year-old kids, they're still kids. I mean,
everybody's somebody's kid.
No, but one of my, I wrote a lot. I used to be very smart when I was 21. As I grew older, I realized I'm not that smart anymore.
You don't know what you don't know.
Right. So it's about choosing, because you're 21, you still have a lot of choices in front of you. It's not what do you want to be, it's who do you want to be.
It's so much simpler than people realize. In the proof in the pudding really is looking at children. I'm talking about children. And it comes down.
Are you married?
I am married.
You have children?
Not yet. Working on it.
Really?
Yeah.
I can give you some tips.
Yeah. As far as the process of making it, I don't think I need tips.
I could give you some tips on the process.
No, on the process, I got that.
You want to watch?
No. I'm cool. I took a health class in junior high. But it's when you think about children, toddlers, think of like a 5-year-old. One game that we all are familiar with, we all played as kids, is make-believe. And the thing about the game make-believe is, think about how that game is played. All it is me telling myself a story about me. So it's like, I am a firefighter. I am a superhero.
Cowboy.
I am a cowboy. So
well, the women aren't thinking cowboys.
Well, to me,
they want to be nurses and mothers and school teachers.
Yeah, every girl's different.
And maybe astronauts.
Every girl, the thing about make-believe is there's no limit. You just choose what you want to be and you say, I am this. And you tell yourself this story. And the thing is, when we're playing make-believe as a kids, I didn't say I want to be a football player. I said I am a football player when we're playing that game as a 5-year-old kid. Now, as you start, you develop that belief, that's being energy. In the moment you're playing make-believe, that you're channeling being energy. I am a football player. I am a princess. I am a nurse. And then we get older and we hold that belief as an athlete through Little League, through junior high, through high school. And you get all the way to the professional level. And you see that belief that I am is what even led you to making it to the professional level. If you didn't believe that you were being that when you were 5 and maintaining the inertia of that belief for all those years, it doesn't happen. There's nobody in the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, PGA Tour who didn't believe first that they were a player. If you're not believing that, it's never going to happen. And so based on that belief, determine what I did all those years. But without that belief, I don't even know what to do. So if I believe I am a football player, when I decided I wanted to play pro sports, which wasn't football, I didn't play football until high school. But when I decided that, then it's like my radars were up and I was always looking for examples of people who were doing what I believed I wanted to be. So it's like I remember in high school when I first started lifting weights, 12, 13 years old, I would buy Muscle and Fitness magazine, usually the ones that had a football player, Reggie White or Junior Seau on the front. And I would literally just model whatever they said their workout was doing. I would do that because I want to be like them. So I'm going to do what they're doing. And so a lot of times, and I just had this conversation the other day with somebody, and they were talking about, very religious, and we're talking about being like Jesus Christ. I said, okay.
Oh, that's a tough one.
That's what. Well, here's the thing: it's not about whether you can or can be like Jesus Christ. It's just like this. If I believe I was built in His image, then everything I do has to stem from that belief. Every conversation I have, every decision I make, how I am as a friend, as a business partner, as a brother, as a spouse, it should all. If I believe I am being like Jesus, then that should be expressed in everything I do. If I believe I am being like Reggie White, that's got to be expressed in everything I do. You can take the name. If I want to be like Patrick Mahomes, if I want to be like Denzel Washington, it doesn't really matter.
You're gonna have to grow your hair back.
Yeah, I would. It's recognizing that.
No humor. I can't get this guy to laugh.
It's recognizing that in order to be who I want to be, I have to do what I do has to match that. And if you do that over time, it builds. The energy builds, right, and you have the results you're looking for.
I can't help myself. I disagree.
Okay.
Right? If I want to be Reggie White, mm-hmm, no matter what I do, I can't be Reggie White, right? If you wanted to be one of the Matthew brothers and play center for the Steelers, mm-hmm, no matter what you did, you may never have his talent. Or maybe that's a bad example, right? I could never be LeBron James. You could never be Tiger Woods. You could never, right? That I'm a square peg. For me to be successful, I got to find a square hole. I got to find what I do best. I got to figure out what my gifts are. And then I got to go develop the skills that support my natural gift. I can't be anybody I want to be just because I want to be them. I got to find out who I am. And I have to develop the skills and the gifts, the skills that support my gift to be the best I can be. I don't want to be anybody but me.
You're not being anybody but you. When you talk about Reggie White was a model. I never attempted to transform into him as a human being.
All right.
But without a model, how does the kid know what to do?
Right. Okay.
So to me, you need that model. You need to model excellence. Somebody who has the results you want. And so
I can agree with, because if I want to be a school teacher, I want to go find the best school teacher there is,
exactly,
and model myself after that school teacher, so I can become the best school teacher I can be using that person as a model.
And in the end, if you do that, then your teaching career could have a similar impact to that teacher. If I do that, then my NFL career can have a similar impact.
We're on the same page now.
You see what I'm saying?
We're on the same page now.
And so it's about modeling.
Right.
Not imitating, modeling. I want to be great.
Find a mentor, even if you can't get face to face.
Yeah, you can find a
mentor.
Read a book.
If I want to model my politics over Winston Churchill, I'm never going to be able to talk to Winston Churchill, but I can read everything about him.
You can interpret the words. You can interpret.
And I can say, this is what he did. This is how he might have saved the world. I want to do something similar to what Winston Churchill did, and I'm going to use him as a model.
Exactly, and that's
I'm not going to become him.
Exactly, that's what I did with Junior Seau. That's what I did with Reggie White, and that's what I did, with Dermontti Dawson.
Okay.
Is their models, and in the end, the objective, what I want to have, the having energy, is a career like theirs, not necessarily their exact experience, because there's never been me before.
Right.
It's I'm using them as a model to forge my own path, and in the end result, the having energy, is I will have an NFL career in the model of other people who I did what they did to get a similar result. So one of my favorite player growing up on the Steelers, when I was growing up, my favorite player, very different position, but I was just a fan. My favorite player was Rod Woodson. Rod Woodson by far my favorite. So check this out. That was my model. I had a poster on my wall my senior year.
Big time smacker.
Okay. By focusing on being like Rod played corner. I played offensive line. It's like polar opposites.
Right. He was an athlete.
But I wanted to be great like him.
Dedicated.
Him. So by modeling him, without believing I was being like him, I don't get the opportunity to play at the same school he did.
What about Blunt? You didn't like Blunt?
I'm talking about me, and Blunt is older than me. That's my mom. My mom liked Mel Blunt. Okay. I met Mel Blunt. Excellent human being, excellent football player. I wanted to be like being energy. I wanted to be like Rod. And that focus on being like Rod led to me getting the only scholarship from the school that he went to, getting drafted by the same team as him.
Do you think he had something to do with you getting?
He had nothing to do with it, other than my admiration for him.
So you hadn't met him?
Never met him.
All right.
Never met him, but I modeled him.
He was a thumper.
Yeah, I know. I mean, he's Purdue, probably the greatest. He was the greatest. Him, Mike Allstott, Drew Brees. Those are the greatest Purdue athletes.
You're missing a couple basketball players.
Well, I'm talking about football.
All right.
I mean, of course, basketball. Purdue's a basketball school.
Was.
Yeah, so
it's coming back.
Zach Edey was Player of the Year 2 years in a row.
No, it's coming back, but it went through about a 40-year desert with Sahara. No great basketball.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, it's recognizing, just modeling excellence. Find somebody who's excellent.
Love it.
Who's doing the things you want to do, who has the results you want to have, and how do I do that? You start with, I got to be like them.
Who's your audience now?
My audience now is former pro athletes who are in transition, and I help them to redefine their being energy.
All right, you help them find jobs.
No, I help empower them so that they can find their path in life, because from age 5 till 25,
they've been put up on a pedestal, and they never had to do for themselves.
That's not necessarily true. What it is that's from an outsider's perspective. But 99% of people have never stood in that person's shoes. They've nenever seen.
Nobody stood in his shoes.
Okay, so who put him on a pedestal? Did he put himself on one?
Some of them.
No. They didn't. They would, because there's not a person playing professional sports who plays for money. And let me explain this one. Let me explain it.
Okay.
Nobody plays for money. It's the transmutation of the energy. So I had a client he still plays in the NHL, and I said this to him. I said, nobody's playing hockey for money. And he said, what do you mean? I just got a new contract. This person's getting paid this much, that much. I said, I get that. But you go to any rink. When did kids start playing hockey? When did you start playing? He said 5 years old. I said, okay, go to a rink of a team of 5-year-olds. Is any one of those players thinking about money? No. Now, everyone in the NHL was that kid.
Absolutely.
So the thing is, the inertia of the being and doing grew into them having money, but that's not who they were being. In order to get to the money, you have to determine that being a player is who I am.
How many football players would be in the NFL? No NIL money and working for $1 million a year. A lot of them would still stay played because $1 million a year is a lot of money. They can't make $1 million a year being a school teacher or a physical fitness teacher or a car salesman or insurance salesman, right? But if you cut their salary down to $50,000 a year, they won't play because it's not worth the damage on their body, even though they love the game. So there is something
That's presupposing their only motivation is money. And I'm telling you, nobody initially started playing sports with that motivation.
See, you didn't say that before.
Yeah, I did say that.
Started playing.
That's what I'm saying. Those 5-year-old hockey players, nobody played. So, but that's their being energy was developed at that age.
I got you.
No matter how old they are now, they're still their mother's son.
The energy started no motivation for money.
It never starts that way with sports. It never starts that way. But
I agree.
Being a player, playing the sport, being a player, playing the sport, doing, evolves into the point where these opportunities to have money come in. There's being, doing, having. So when you talk about the money, when you talk about the career, that's having energy.
Okay.
But you got to first be and do. And if you
your coaching job is to change the direction of the energy from sports into.
The thing is, their next chapter may still be in sports. It's just a different role. It's finding their purpose in life beyond the job titles, beyond all of this structure that humans created, and figuring out what is my purpose on this planet. Like, I thought it was playing football, but
well, even if it was playing football, you can't do it forever.
But the thing is, you can use your experience to bring a different type of value to different people. And they may be other football players, or it may be something completely different. It's figuring out that who am I at my core? My football, because think about this, sports is something we do. It's not being energy. It's never been and it will never be. Sports is something you do. Now, take away the sport, you came into this world soaking wet, crying with nothing. You didn't have football. You didn't have basketball. You didn't have any of those things. So we need to get back to who are you as a human being? And once you understand that, recognize that everything you accomplished in sports was rooted in that being energy. And so now the sport's not there, but you're still you. So how can we channel that energy in a different way?
Let me go back.
Okay.
I hate repeating myself. Figure out what your natural gift is, and then develop the skills that support your natural gift.
And we're saying the same thing.
Right.
We're saying the same thing.
If you're a round peg, don't go into the square hole. Find the round peg hole that you fit into without having to change who you are. Right? It's right. I think that's a secret to life, by the way, is discover what your natural gift is, and everybody has a natural gift, and then develop the skills that support that gift. If you're a round peg, only go to round holes. Don't try to change who you are to fit into a square peg.
No, I mean, I have no disagreement with anything you're saying.
Right.
What I want to add is consider this. How do you tell somebody who since age 5 believed that they were a round peg, but because they're I'm a football player, that's who I'm being, and I play football. But like you said, at some point it's going to end, and they can't anymore. But their belief system is I'm a football player. That's what I got to change.
Here you go. I told my boys, I have 2 sons. I said, being an adult starts at age 21. Mm-hmm. I'm 74 years old. I've been an adult for 53 years. You've been an adult for 5 years. You want to take a guess how much more you're going to learn in 53 years than you can possibly learn in 5 years? No shit. So listen to someone who's been there before. This is your perspective talking to the young kids. You're 24 years old. You think you have a lot of answers. You've been an adult for 3 years, according to my formula. You've been an adult for 25 years, 27 years, right? The knowledge that I've picked up in 27 years that you haven't had yet, I'm trying to show you the shortcuts, the pitfalls, the path to the top, the path away from disaster, right? Through my experiences. Allow me to share with you the shortcuts.
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing with your job.
Yeah.
You're showing the shortcuts both to success and to avoid disaster.
Yeah, the thing is, these guys play professional sports. They have experience of reaching high level success, and that success is going to end at some point because you can't play forever. And a lot of times, what happens is when you lose that identity as an athlete, is you start to tell a different story than you did when you were 5. And and those stories, because think about it, kids play
If
make
you're only a football player, your life is over.
right.
But you're not only a football player.
You've never been a football player. Your
Mhm.
mother's son who played football.
Right. And that is what you have to come to terms with. You're not just a football player. You've never been a football player. You're the son, you're the brother, you're the member of the, and you happen to have played football. Football's over. What happens next? You don't give up. You have to reinvent yourself. You have to take your core values and find out where do you fit in best and how to be a productive member of our community.
Yeah,
as best you can,
and live a fulfilled life that's
find
fulfilling
joy
to you.
Find
joy. See, you're picking up what I'm putting down. It is, everybody. We may use different language, but we're saying the same thing. We're saying the same thing.
We're battling though.
No, we're having a lively conversation. This is for them. This is for them.
There's only 47 people watching this,
but
I hope you're getting entertained because you're getting the best of both worlds here.
At the end of the day,
you're probably a Democrat, aren't you?
I don't get into those things. I don't. That's not.
I'm sorry.
That's not my area of expertise. That's all. It's all good.
It's
all good. It's fun. It's fun. But at the end of the day, it's recognizing the difference between who I'm being, and what I do. And the thing is, when you play football at that level, we start to associate you with what you do. But at some point, you're not going to be doing that, and you're going to take on a different identity. Well, what am I going to do? That's for you to decide based on your unique magic, your unique abilities, what you're talking about.
So if I just judge you as a former football player, that means you got $40 million put aside someplace, right?
I mean,
maybe.
I mean, at the end of the day,
40 million.
At the end of the day, it's like that's kind of a challenge in our society is people, judging their worth based on their monetary.
The 7th level of becoming the better you, be more tolerant, judge less.
Yeah, I mean, to me that's
right, Brenda.
Yes,
that's the first presupposition that I teach is respect other people's model of the world.
Right.
And so that is, you don't have to agree with it. Just recognize that you've never stood in their shoes. You've never been by. You didn't have
respectful.
You didn't have their mom and dad. You didn't sit in their classroom. You don't know their story. You don't know why they are the way they are in this moment. Just respect that they're not you, and be more curious about it than judgmental.
I tell you, I think that's spectacular. I mean, that's awfully hard to do. It's challenging to be more accepting of things that are different.
It can be challenging. You're right. The question you got to ask yourself is, do I want to be? Because everything was challenging. I think back when I was in 3rd grade and went to a new school and looked up on top of the board and they had all those cursive letters. Right. And I had just learned to write regular. And I was like, that looks hard. And so remember the pages with the little bit of those. So the learning process hasn't changed. If I want to be more tolerant, it's just a matter of finding somebody to show me how. That's really it. And you can learn. The thing with adults is we get into this, we start to believe, because when we were kids, we believed the adults knew. So when we're adults, we believe we're supposed to know. The thing is, do you want to change, or do you want to be intolerant? And that's the dignity we have as human beings, is to make that decision that we want to change.
Who's modeling you now? I mean, it can't be white anymore. It can't be
who am I modeling now?
No. Who do you model? Who are you looking at now to model you for the future?
Well, I look at a lot of thought leaders, people like Tony Robbins, people like Joe Dispenza.
Those are smart people.
They're smart people.
They're successful people.
Yeah.
They made a lot of money.
Yeah, they made a lot of money. And the thing is, a lot of people don't know the stories of how, all they see is the money they make now. But, when you look at Tony Robbins, it didn't start. He wasn't a wealthy guy.
Nobody ever started wealthy.
No one, some people do. Some people do.
Okay.
And some people do. And, at the end of the day, though, it's finding somebody who's, exhibits the values that you want to exhibit. Somebody who, not just the results they're getting, but how they live and their mindset and what they believe.
Going back to one of the things I said before, it's who do you want to be, not what do you want to be. Mm-hmm. Who do you want to be in life? What core values do you want to have? Mm-hmm. How do you want to treat people? what kind of person do you want to be is way more important than what are you going to be. You can be a plumber and fulfill all your dreams of being the person you want to be, even though you're a plumber, because you're who you want to be.
Because plumbing is what you do.
Right.
Who do you want to be that does plumbing?
That's right.
Who do you want to be that plays football? Who do you want to be?
Doesn't matter what you do. Who are you?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. That's the
football, plumbing, school teacher. It doesn't matter what you do. What matters is who are you?
Who are you when you're doing it?
Right.
Who are you when you're doing it? And so that's a big thing that athletes, that's part of the responsibility we take on, is that, you're more than just the number on your back.
NIL. How much does that change football?
I think it's ruined it. I think it's ruined college sports.
All they got to do is put a cap on it, a salary cap per team or per school, and you do away that program. Well, you put a $500,000 salary cap for all your athletes. Boom, you're done with the problem.
I don't think the money is as big an issue for college sports as the transfer portal. I think that's the biggest travesty.
Okay. But the transfer portal is only there because of the money. But if you said to a kid, look, I'm going to give you $1,000 a month so you can buy pizza, have your clothes dry cleaned, and take a girl out for dinner once in a while, right? And fill up your car with gas. You get $1,000 a month and free room and board.
Right.
That's okay, right?
Yeah,
that's okay.
I agree. I agree with that.
But giving him $100,000 a month.
Well, I mean,
it all goes him $500,000 a month.
It all goes back to the amount of the labor that they're putting into the sport and what it's generating for the institution. And that's
did they do it for love or for money? Are they playing football because, like, when they're 5 years old on the hockey rink, are they playing it because they want to play, or are they playing it for money?
Well, that's, from my perspective, they're playing because they want to play, because when I played, that's the way it was. It's changing now. And not only that, when you have, that 5-year-old, now, because of the monetary potential, the way that they're being parented changes. And so a lot of times the parents are going to see dollar signs, and that's going to change the way that they approach.
We both know that for every 10,000 kids who says, I want to be a professional athlete, maybe one of them makes it to a tryout.
Right.
We know that they're going to fall on failed dreams. Because
you're right. And we also know that somebody's going to get that trial. And that was my mentality, was like, they're going to pick somebody.
How many kids went to Purdue with you? You on your 100 people on the team each year?
About 100, yeah.
So you went to school with maybe 250, 300 different football players?
Maybe something like that.
How many of them played pro ball? 4?
Oh, no, it was a lot more than that. I played with, I can think of, in my draft class, there were 5 of us. And then there was also another.
How many played 8 years? You're the only one. No, that's right.
Breeze, Matt Light played 11 years.
Okay.
Brandon Gorham played 9 years.
You say 1 out of 50 that graduate from Big Ten has a real career in the NFL.
I mean, the statistics are what they are, but if you're going to go by the statistics, as a kid, I'm not thinking about that. You say, so let's say 1 out of 10,000, right? My mentality, this is why I'm an executive mindset coach, is forget the numbers. How do I be that one? And that's got to be your.
Don't you have a backup plan?
No, because the backup plan is you're planning to not succeed, to not be one of those one.
What happens if you're not the one?
Then we'll figure it out. That we'll go from there. But the thing is,
you didn't go to English class, you didn't go to social class, you didn't go to biology.
I did because
you didn't think going to those classes were going to help you be a professional football player.
See, that's a presupposition and an assumption, because that's not the way I approached it.
Might not be the way you approach it.
And I can tell you that's not the way Drew Brees approached it, because I went to school.
But it's the way a lot of athletes approach it.
I mean, that's a projection onto them. I'm telling you, a lot of athletes don't approach it that way. Right. And the ones that make it to that next level, most of them don't approach it that way. And so the thing is, one thing I learned from Joe Tiller is the way you do anything is the way you do everything. The person who's not going to class, let me turn on that film. He's the one that's messing up the play. And so what I found is the players that play the best are the ones that just do everything to a level of excellence. And those are the ones that make it.
You're an offensive lineman.
Yep.
With the exception of maybe a quarterback, offensive linemen are the smartest guys on the football field.
Well, I'm not going to argue that.
No, but it's pretty unique. universally true. And it's not like they have the most difficult playbook. It's just there's something about an offensive lineman being studious, high IQ, and having a better work ethic, taking everything a lot more seriously than the defensive line or the receivers or the quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, I can appreciate that. I've seen people that, and I'm thinking of specific people that I played with at Purdue, people I played with professionally, and I think the individual's got to determine who he wants to be, and I think it's tricky to say that because somebody plays us for a certain position that they're smarter or not.
Yeah, but you don't see a lot of offensive linemen getting in trouble.
You got in trouble.
No. What I'm saying is, you don't see them beating their wives. You don't see them out late partying, racing their cars around. You don't see them making a lot of big, huge social faux pas that can ruin their career. For the most part, offensive linemen have the blinders on, and they're focused on doing the right thing at the right time for the right reasons.
Well, I'm gonna subscribe to that. Because it's
now, if you're a defensive lineman, you would have said that's not true. But as an offensive lineman, you can agree to that.
I can agree to that. At the same time, I look at it as the individual's got to decide who he wants to be. It just keeps going back to that. It's like, who do you want to be? I know guys that play defensive line who would never in a million years be in the headlines for doing anything like you mentioned. And
George,
I know guys who play safety who would never, like, I played with Troy Polamalu, probably the greatest safety I ever played. Right. Never in a million years. Never.
We had Deron Cherry here a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, Troy's better than that.
Say it again?
Troy's better than that. Troy's the best.
Deron never got drafted.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But he played 9-10 years, Ring of Honor, right? But now he owns a big time business, right? He went from being a football player to owning a huge business here in Kansas City, and he reinvented himself.
Yeah, and it's each person's. That's a journey that's
Ronnie
very
Lott
individual.
was my favorite, by the way.
Yeah. Ronnie Lott's up there. He's pretty good. Pretty good. The guy was tough. It's each person's got to determine who they're being as an athlete, and and then when you're done playing sports, you got to.
All right. So let's go back to how I can help you. Mm-hmm. How can I help you recruit more customers for your clients, customers, disciples of what you're putting down?
I do a lot of leadership training. I've worked with military veterans, worked with CEOs, corporate, and always looking to help to share my experience of high-level professional success.
Is there somebody I want to promote you? I think you have a valuable message. I think your perspective is pretty right on. Some of the vocabulary I'd like to tweak, and we talked about that, but I agree with everything you're saying. How can people get in touch with you and sign you up?
You find me on social media.
Don't give out your home phone.
No, not that. You go to ChukkyOkobi.com, and we got his name up on there, so it's spell out his name. .com. You can go to that website as well as all social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook.
Do you charge?
Oh, I charge. I mean, there's only one me, so if I'm going to give my time and energy to something, it's got to be reciprocated, obviously.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. What are you currently doing? I mean, like this week, you have things rocking and rolling this week?
Yeah, I'm working on some a couple of different projects.
Have you thought about writing a book?
I've thought about it.
I have a ghostwriter who can help you.
Okay.
Right. She wrote my book for me. And the best part about her writing my book for me was she wrote it in my voice. Right. When my dad read it, it said, it sounds like you're sitting across the table telling me your stories. And that was her gift, is writing the book in my story, in my voice. Mm-hmm. And when we're done, I'll be thrilled to death to give you your contact, because that you can hand out is a lot better to hand that out than a business card.
Right. Absolutely.
how did we find you? How did What's Up Big Bomb and BTBY get hold of a gem like you?
Well, we were, I met John.
John Avocado?
John Avocado.
John Avocado. I know John Avocado.
Yeah, I met him.
And his wife, Kenya.
Yep.
Fantastic
We
people.
were both heavily involved in Warriors Ascent. John is a military veteran himself, and a lot of the work I do, mindset work, I've teach different courses to military veterans through Warriors Ascent, a nonprofit here in Kansas City, and that's how we first connected.
All right, good people.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything I can do for you?
I'm a speaker, and I work with professional athletes and transitioning athletes. So any ins with professional sports teams here in Kansas City.
Well, I used to be right back here. I used to be the assistant general manager for the arena of Kansas City Phantoms, which was an arena football team, and so we're out of business, so I can't help you there. You have the professional soccer teams here. You got men's and women's professional soccer teams. You know Mahomes.
I don't know him personally.
Neither do I.
So but any ins to speak and share my message and my experience with the major professional sports teams there in Kansas City. Okay. That's what I'm looking for.
All right. I'm a big fan. Thank you.
Yeah.
You've been a gem.
It's been fun.
Brenda's going to tell you about 2-3 weeks from now, this is ready for you to review. If you like it, we'll air it. If you don't like it, we'll air it anyways.
Yeah. Hey, if it's going to be benefit to you guys to air it.
Well, no. We don't do this for my benefit. What I'm doing is I'm trying to get your story out there so people get to know who you are and what you're putting down, what you're presenting, what your history, your story, your values, your journey is. I hope we did it justice.
Yeah, we had a fun conversation. So
be better over a cold beer, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm cutting back on the beers, but
you're only 250.
Yeah. Still, I want to take care. I only got one body to live in, so I want to take the best care of it that I can.
You're looking good. How old are you?
46.
Brenda, you were right. I thought he was 48. All right. Take care, bro.
Right.
Really, thank you very much for coming down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Till next time. Take care, Big Bob.
If you're thinking about going to one of the events that Brenda puts on for BTBY, I highly suggest it.
What sets BTBY apart is how it blends business growth with personal development. And it's not just an event, it's an experience.
They bring in the right people. They bring in the right coaches. They bring in the right experts. And they really help you become a better version of yourself.
The stories shared by the speakers are raw, real, and relatable. Attendees see themselves reflected in those stories, and the energy in the room is filled with wisdom, passion, and real-life breakthroughs.
I went to the Becoming the Best You event this weekend, and it was absolutely amazing.
This conference absolutely has impacted and changed my life.
This is my winning season.
Even as a speaker, I was listening to the other speakers and learning different things I could do in my business.
I am very excited because I'm going to be with Brenda Ringwood in Kansas City for the event in September.
If you haven't been to a BTBY experience yet, I highly encourage you to attend the next one. If you're ready for change, this is the place to start.